Hello everyone, Sandrak here. So in today's video, I'll try to answer the question whether you should pull for Yoimiya or not, and also I'll give you a few tips and guides on the weapon choices, artifact choices, artifacts main stats choices, and also some team counts for Yoimiya. Of course, with that said, I'm actually running a Yoimiya giveaway right now. So if you do not have Yoimiya and you want her, you should enter the giveaway. So all you have to do is go to the giveaway video, like, comment, and subscribe. As long as you do not have Yoimiya and as long as you have not topped up $100 or more in the USD currency for Genshin, so which is the biggest top up, as long as you can click on the most amount of Genesis crystals, then you're eligible for the giveaway. So of course, with that said, let's get started. So whether you should pull for Yoimiya. The question can be simply answered. If you have a power DPS, then don't pull. If you do not have a power DPS, then pull. Here is the reason. Basically, it simplifies to why you need a power DPS at this point in game, as long as you're entering late game, which means as long as you're AR 45 plus, was why you need at least one power DPS. The main reason is that Yoimiya is not the best when it comes to power DPS. She is good, but she is not the best. So it means if you do not have a power DPS, you need her to cover for the power DPS until the next broken power DPS comes out. Whereas if you already have a power DPS, there is no point duping it up. But of course, if you like her and you want to pull for her, go ahead. I'm just saying from maximizing game resources point of view, you should not pull for her if you already have a power DPS. The main reason you need a power DPS if you're AR 45 plus is that in the Spiral Abyss especially, most of the floors, the people designing the Spiral Abyss will assume that you have one pyro and one cryo DPS in most situations. Mainly because there are currently 8 cryo characters in game and 9 pyro characters in game. Way more than the other 4 elements. So of course, with that said, if you do not have a power DPS in the floor where the person designing assumes you have a power DPS, and you actually cannot bring the power DPS, you get in some trouble for not being able to do the specific elemental reactions or damage you're expected to do in that floor, and that might affect your out damage time. That might affect your clear time. So of course, with that said, if you do not care about Spiral Abyss, then completely ignore this part of the video. So that's what I have for conclusion. If you do not have Yoimiya, if you do not have any other power DPS, get her because she is a power DPS. However, if you have a power DPS, there is no need to double up because her damage is not amazing. It's okay, but it's not amazing. So of course, with that said, let's go into her artifact choices, her weapon choices. The question I get asked a lot is if I have a specific set of weapon at a specific refinement, should I go for the Sundering Pulse? Now, of course, first of all, hypothesis here, I'm assuming you are talking about R1 Sundering Pulse. Now, of course, if you're talking about high constellation Sundering Pulse, then you should get the weapon. So that's what I will say there. But as for R1 Sundering Pulse, if you have R4 or R5 Rust, or if you have Almost Bow, or if you have Skyward Harp, I would not recommend. Otherwise, I would recommend you actually go trying for it. The main reason is because the new Inazuma craftable bow is actually not that good on her, because Yoimiya will want to use the new artifact Shin Level's Reminiscence in a lot of cases, which means her ult will not be full a lot of the time, which means it might not be the best idea to use the Demon Slayer bow because the second part of the passive might not get fulfilled. So, and on top, if you would assume that there is no second part of the passive, then R2 Rust can outdamage R5 Demon Slayer bow. So of course, with that said, if you have high constellation Rust, or the main reason Almost Bow is picked because it's a 5-star weapon, and actually it is probably the worst among the 3 5-star weapons between Almost, Skyward Harp, and Sundering Pulse. Skyward Harp is good because of its crit rate, crit damage, crit rate substats, and crit damage passive, and on top of that, it has high attack, base attack. And the Sundering Pulse is good because it's Yoimiya's weapon. So of course, with that said, that's the conclusion for weapons. Moving on to artifacts. I'll talk artifacts alongside with builds. For artifacts, generally she has 3 main ways of building. Now, of course, there is extra ways like Foul Legacy Yoimiya build, which is the same build from Child's Foul Legacy form, which is Firework Child. So there's also Firework Yoimiya build. There's basically Firework any character build at this point. But I'll go with the 3 main one, which is the Power Only team, which is Yoimiya's first build, the Overload team, and the Vaporize team. These are the 3 ones Yoimiya generally uses at the moment. So for the Power Only team, you actually want to use 4-piece Lava Walker. This is mainly because of the 4-piece, and If you're only using Pyro, then this could be up almost all the time. And as for the actual team comp itself, we are looking at another power character, in this case generally Shannon or Bennett, or sometimes both. And the last character is generally used as utility support depending on the situation. So any Geo or Anemo character can be subbed in here. Generally speaking, Kazuha is best for this slot because he does both crowd control, damage increase, and he is also Anemo. And any other characters, Venti can be used for more crowd control, Sayu can be used to apply Pyro more often. The Zhali can be used for general shield purposes, and Albedo can be used for both shielding and damage. So that is generally how to go with this team comp. I'll talk about the artifact main stats together in the end, because for all three builds, she generally uses the same artifact's main stats. So for the second team comp, which is the Overload team comp, you do want to go with the 4-piece Crimson Witch of Flames. However, the 4-piece Shimenawa's Reminiscence will do a little bit more damage, but I assume that most people do not have the artifact set at the moment, so 4-piece Crimson Witch of Flames is a perfectly good choice. Same case with Vaporize. So for these two, for the Overload team, you're basically looking at an Electro character to deal with the Overload instead of another Anemo or Geo character. Now, of course, you can still go double Pyro, Electro, and Anemo or Geo as utility support. So between the 6 Electro characters, I only recommend 3, which is Visual Beidou and the Electro MC, and they all have their own specialties. So depending on which one you have, you can pick. So Visual specializes in single target. So if you're dealing with single target, like for example, you're fighting the Child Weekly boss and you're dealing with Overload Yoimiya team comp, then Visual is the best in this case. Beidou is best against 2 or more enemies. So Beidou in this case, if you're clearing Abyss and you're using Overload Yoimiya comp, Beidou would be best in this case. Electro MC is used if Yoimiya needs energy recharge. So in general, Electro MC is used in conjunction with the 4-piece Shimenawa's Reminiscence. Now, of course, if you have good energy recharge, you don't need you don't need Electro MC. However, if you do not have good energy recharge, Electro MC will be able to recharge 12 of the 15 energy lost with 100% energy recharge. So assume if you get any more energy recharge on the Electro MC, they can easily charge up the 15 energy lost from Shimenawa's Reminiscence. On top of that, Electro MC does apply Electro, and if you build EM on them, they can do okay damage. But do not expect any big numbers from them because after all, it's the MC. Finally, for the Vaporize comp, then 3 characters I would look at. First one is Mona if you're playing Nuke, but if you're playing Nuke, go play Huta, don't play Yoimiya. That's what I'll say. The other one is Xingqiu. Now, most people wonder if Xingqiu can Vaporize with Yoimiya, and the answer is yes. Yoimiya applies Pyro on the 1st, 4th, and 7th of every hit, which means applying Xingqiu can follow up with the Hydro applications, which means you are able to melt. The main reason I do not recommend the Vaporize comp here is because Xingqiu is almost wanted by everybody, and of course the last option is you can go Barbara. Now the other question is, does Yoimiya work well with a sub DPS like Child? Yes, she does, but if you're already doing that, there are probably better team comps for that one. So generally speaking, it is hard to build a dual DPS comp because you're wasting 2 of the spots instead of 1, looking into DPS potential. So instead, what you should be able to do instead is focusing on Yoimiya and have someone like Kazuha to cover up for her downtime, which isn't very long. It's surprisingly short compared to some of the what I was expecting. So generally speaking, Yoimiya is still probably better played as a main DPS than a sub DPS, than a dual DPS in this case. Of course, even as a main DPS, she's sort of playing as a sub DPS. But dual DPS should be generally avoided because in that case, you have to either have 2 really good supports or the overall team damage will be looking at you're basically working with 3-person team at a time, which is going to be less than damage from 4-person team. And of course, another team comp to look into is, as I've said before, the Firework Yoimiya comp. So it's going to be Yoimiya, Xingqiu, and then double Electro, so Visual and Beidou, or Yoimiya, Xingqiu, Electro, and another utility support. This comp is like a mix between the previous 2 reaction comps and works pretty well. But in this case, Yoimiya is not really a star. She's just put in there alongside the other comp to just do damage there. So of course, with that said, finally I'll quickly go over the artifact main stats so I can close this video off before 11 minutes hopefully. So for main stats artifacts, you actually want to go crit goblet, crit circlet, attack goblet instead of pyro damage bonus, and attack sands. The main reason you want to go attack instead of pyro damage bonus is because the way damage calculation works in Genshin Impact. Essentially, damage calculation works by multiplying 8 different numbers together, and out of those 8, 6 numbers boost your damage, like crit, attack, and damage bonus talked about before, and things like that. And 2 factors actually decrease your damage, which is enemy res and enemy level. Now, of course, with that said, you want to maximize the numbers, so you're looking at trying to pair out these 8 numbers as evenly as possible. Some quick math here: 4 times 4 is bigger than 3 times 5, mainly because 4 times 4 there is no difference between the 2 multipliers, whereas 3 and 5 there is a difference of 2 between the multipliers. This is generally a math. We'll use the math where if you're trying to maximize area, or if you're trying to maximize the product of 2 or more numbers, it is best that these numbers are as close to each other in terms of number as possible. So of course that is how you should do it. I will have a video later explaining why this is the case, but generally speaking, this is what you should do. So going back to the problem with Yoimiya, because she's already getting pyro damage bonus from her other staff, and on top of that, her E is pure damage bonus going to the damage bonus multiplier of the damage calculation. So in this case, you do not want to stack the damage bonus multiplier too high. In this case, you want to stack up to attack, because she already needs decent crit, so stacking on more crit damage will not help in this case, which means why you actually want to use attacks percent. Now, of course, with that said, if you already went with pyro damage bonus, it is perfectly fine. There is no need to swap back right now. It doesn't do too much of a difference. However, saturation is the thing to consider when building characters. So that's all I have for you today. If you like the content, please consider subscribing. If you haven't already and you would like to, please enter the Yoimiya giveaway. Thank you and have a nice day.